Hi, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of this series of L&R's Coaching Conversations. So my name is Richard Grossi, and I am a leadership and life and addiction recovery coach in South Africa. Al, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Rich. Good to see you again. I'm Ali Gordon. I'm from North London. I'm a high performance and leadership coach.
Cool. All right, guys. So this week, what we thought we would do is discuss well, for me, it's a really important topic. It comes up so often in my coaching conversations and in my daily life. And this is about limiting beliefs and standards. Why it is so kind of important to me is because I'm very much about becoming or learning to become self-authoring. And I like to promote this as often as I can. And when we have limiting beliefs and values and standards and all of that stuff, the ability for us to direct our own lives becomes just exactly that, quite limited. Al, what are your thoughts on that topic?
I know this is a very personal subject for you. Look, I think limiting self-beliefs is one of the biggest roadblocks to achieving the best versions of ourselves, quite frankly.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
It's as big as that. So yeah, I'm really glad we're covering it today.
You know what I learned about this, Al, is that through my experience in actually studying to be a coach, which was it was a 2-year crazy experience. I learned so much about myself, and I learned that I unconsciously had a whole host of limiting self-beliefs and standards, which actually weren't my own. So what I kind of learned in self-reflection, and it's come up again, as I said, in a lot of my coaching conversations with clients, is that when we are younger, we grow up with our families or whoever it is, or people that we admire. We look at them when we're young and we listen to their stories, and anything like my family. My family are Lebanese, okay? So we have those big family meal type vibes, and these stories are shared at least, across the table. And what we do when we're young is that we accept very readily other people's standard and beliefs as the truth. And we don't recognize that those standards and beliefs that they have formed were actually passed down to them potentially from their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. And so we look at them as the truth. And there's we don't dispute them. We accept them totally. And we go through life. And I know for me personally is I went through a little bit of shit when I was honestly, okay, I wasn't the greatest behaved teenager. Let's just throw that out there. Yeah, I was a bit, thank God my parents loved me very much. I'm still around. And I learned, when I was growing up that, hey, you know what I kind of am feeling inside of myself as an individual, as Richard, is different to what my folks feel or my family feel or the people that I admired when I was younger. I didn't quite agree with a lot of the things, but when you grow up in a Lebanese family, you just say, yeah, sure. Otherwise, you might not come out alive if you start disagreeing with everything. And as I grew older, I remember this, and this was actually only happened a few years ago when I was starting to become a coach, was the first time that I'd actually gave myself permission to own my own voice for the first time in a very, very long time. And I was having a conversation with my mom, and she had said something or commented on something that I had done. And she said, Richard, you should have done it like that. And I turned around and I said, well, who said so? Who said so? And she said, well, you should have because it's right. So I said, well, who said it was right? She said, it is just right. That's the way it goes. So I said, no, wait a second. No, that might be right to you, but it's not right to me. She said, but that's the right way to do it. I said, well, who told you that? No, my mom told me, and that's the way it's always been done. I said, well, who told her? No, she doesn't know that. Doesn't know that one. And I said to her, you know what? I love you very much, but I am my own person. I have my own voice. I have my own opinions. And I chose at that particular time to own my voice and step out of that shade of other people's opinions and beliefs that I had just taken or hijacked as my own throughout life. And once I had found my voice and started to claim my own territory, there was an incredible amount of freedom and incredible amount of self-independence and growing up that I experienced as an individual. And I was able to walk through life and navigate it in a far more comfortable way. Because when we when we stop kind of allowing ourselves to have a voice, not giving ourselves that permission, we are actually not really being authentic to who we are as a person. We are being imitations of other people. And like pieces over here, there. But hey, what about me? What about me? And what about my opinions? They are valid, they matter. And so that's kind of where my head was at with that one.
Yeah, I think that was what a great example of living somebody else's beliefs and then challenging them. And how often does that actually happen? So no, I agree, Rich. I think I will share with you, since you shared about when I became a coach a couple of years ago, I had to go and look at all my beliefs because I thought I saw the world in a certain way. I had my own map of the world, which was obviously from how I grew up and how I was mentored, how I was taught and everything that I saw. So I had a very clear sort of map of the world. And I had to go in there and really challenge everything and strip a lot of those out in order to kind of be the person I am now and sort of lose that old identity of who I was then. And I think my beliefs were just, some of them were serving me, some of them just were not serving me. They were slowing me down. They weren't allowing me to become the person I wanted to be. And you're so right. And I think often when you talk to clients or just friends and they have a certain belief about something or they are being triggered by conversations, it's because they have a belief that's so baked in that they don't know any different. And your mum was exactly the same, wasn't she? She had this sort of baked in belief that was from her mother, as though it was a truth. It wasn't the truth. It was just a truth.
No, 100%.
Good for you for challenging it, because I know I agree, and I think we all go through life very much possibly seeing things as very black and white when we're told something. Oh, it must be that, but of course it's not. It's just somebody else's belief, and you so often hear people saying, finishing most sentences with "of course," as though it's the most definitive statement ever. And of course, in their mind, of course it is. Of course it's the truth. But of course it's not. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think if you're going to create the life that you want, you have to start hearing other people's beliefs and your own beliefs and really challenging them and say, are these actually true, or are they just something that somebody has learned along the way and they've just become their truth?
No, totally. And a lot of my clients who experience quite a lot of internal trauma when finding this new identity, and have lost their voice, a lot of them choose to remain stuck because of the sake of just keeping the peace. Rather keep the peace. Let me minimize who I am as a person, minimize my voice, because I don't want to cause that one harm or hurt over here, or I don't want to, ruffle feathers over there. And we have to also take cognizant of just that, yes, that might be an issue, but is it worth diminishing yourself and your identity as an individual because you want to keep the peace? What about you? And it became so important to me, in so many of the lessons that I learned in life, and like, again, a lot of my clients will say to me, and I know I went through this when I was younger, like I had a lot of insecurities around who I was as a person. And the questions often come up as, I don't feel good enough. Okay. And that's where it stops with a full stop. And then I often say, right, okay, I can validate that that's how you feel, but you don't feel good enough according to whose standard? Nice. Whose standard don't you feel good enough according to? And there's a huge pensive pause. And it's like, I've never thought of it like that. I said, well, actually, you're comparing yourself to somebody else's standard somewhere, because, you're not born with a whole set of beliefs and standards that's ingrained in you. You don't see children lying, in the hospital bed being like, don't take that photo of me, I'm too ugly, or don't do this, don't do that. We kind of form those as we go, we collect them. And at the end of the day, we should be self-authoring enough to have some responsibility for our own life and say, you know what, I have a set of standards and beliefs. Granted, they may not be yours. It doesn't mean that mine are right and yours are wrong. It means that they are my own, and I own them with pride. And I'll like on a more personal level. I went through quite a like a hell of a thing with this when I was in my early 20s. When I came out as gay, and it's, again, I'm not ashamed to share my truth. And the whole thing, I can understand why it was confusing for a lot of people, because I'd been in a 5-year relationship with a girl. I'd only ever dated women. And suddenly, stuff happened. I met this person and we formed a relationship. And I can't say that my whole family had like a coming out party for me. They were like, yes, it wasn't like that. It was kind of a shock factor, absolutely. And kind of like, well, we don't get it. What's happening here? No. And I went through a lot of internal conflict there, where I did minimize my voice for a long time, because I didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to upset people. And I was trying to figure my way through this whole thing myself until, later on. And it took me a number of years to come out and be like, you know what? I can accept that this potentially is not what you want or what you believe, et cetera, et cetera. However, I cannot live out of your standards, because my responsibility and my happiness depends on me. And that is when I really started to find the voice of standing up and saying, you know what, I'm not like you. I don't want to be like you. I love you. I respect you, but I love and respect myself too. And this is, it's a great topic in all situations. In work, friendships, romance, parents, whatever, and especially ourselves. What a wonderful opportunity to sit down and say, okay, shit, who am I? Let me start from the beginning and look at what the things that we believed in, the things that kind of jar us, and ask yourself questions. That's what coaching's about. Questions. What do you reckon?
I love it. I think it's interesting in terms of relationships, isn't it? Beliefs. I'm dying to ask you a few questions about why did it take you?
Yeah.
Did it take you till you were in your early 20s to come out because your belief was the family's not going to accept it, or was it more than that? Was that sort of quite a drive? Because your mum has obviously had a really big impact on your life until you start to question her. Yeah. She's a patriarch, isn't she, of the family?
Sure.
So it makes it really hard. You don't want to offend the matriarch. Yeah. You don't want to upset the matriarch, because your belief is that she heads it up. Her beliefs are right. So is that what kept
I get where you go.
Is that what kept you in the relationship with female?
It's an odd one, because a lot of my friends ask me about this also. Like, for me personally, I was desperately in love with my girlfriend. Like, so much so I wanted to get engaged. I was madly in love with her. And I can't tell you what happened. It wasn't, I woke up and there was somebody standing at the end of my bed with the wand and being done, and things just changed. And so it wasn't so much that I was scared of it, but when I realized and that relationship had ended and I was in the space of kind of being like, okay, listen, you've changed over here. I was definitely very, very scared of coming up and saying, listen, this is where I'm at. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for that acceptance and that love, etc., not realizing that acceptance and love had to come from me first. So my beliefs and my standards against what was acceptable and was not were kind of birthing within inside me, because I felt them over here. And I'm as an ontological coach, I'm very much about where it sits in the body. And it's interesting, I've just pointed to like right over here. Because it sat right over here, but at the end of the day, I wasn't owning it in my voice.
Okay.
So this process of coming from here over there was about climatizing myself towards who Richard was as an individual and being accepting of it and owning himself and saying, you know what, my standards and beliefs are not that. They are now this. And I am okay with that. I do not need acceptance from anybody else aside of myself. And so when I started on that process, that struggle began to diminish, because that self-love, I gave it the right to come through. I authored it. I became self-authoring in that moment.
I mean, it makes total sense because when you've grown up with someone with such strong feelings about something, and had you heard as when you're growing up that homosexuality was a bad thing? Had you heard that? Is that something you picked up and then maybe even more informed?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up in a very traditional Christian family, and was Christian. I am a Christian myself. So there was that kind of that battle with right, wrong, good, bad, whatever. And I came to the decision, and I'm very comfortable with it, that I do believe in God, and I believe that God created me, and I believe that God loves me, and God knows my heart, and he knows, my journey, and he knows things about me that nobody else does. So my relationship with God is when I'm in my bedroom and I close that door. That's when God and I chat. My relationship with God is not out there in public screaming X, Y, and Z. I mean, I get that some people do that, and that's a wonderful thing if that's your calling, but it's not mine. And I'm so good with that inside, and the strange thing is I kind of really did torture myself for years about this. Richard, you are bad. You are doing all this. But at the end of the day, I didn't wake up and decide, I know what, I'm going to really piss everybody else off and throw myself into abject confusion and say, today I'm going to be gay. Let's see how that goes. It wasn't like that. And I had to show myself an extreme amount of compassion once that turmoil kind of simmered down, and said, you know what, I can own my voice. I can stand up. I can be who I am. I'm Richard, and I'm loved, and I'm appreciated for who I am as an individual. If you can't do that, that's okay. Then don't do it. Then don't be in that circle. I don't need to please everybody. And so when I enabled myself to become self-authoring in an aspect of my life, which honestly, there was touch and go times for me, like big time. And that's probably where a lot of the drug addiction stuff stemmed from, where it really, really ticked off, was in that space of trying to figure out like who Richard really was. Once I gave myself permission to believe in my own standards and realize that I did not have to measure up to anybody else's, I was okay with me.
Yeah, I think it's a really good catch, Rich, because you often sort of seek solace somewhere else, don't you? And kind of, if it's the drink, it's the drugs, if it's chasing women, men, whatever, eating, you're seeking solace to hide away from those beliefs. And unless you really face those beliefs face on, you're not going to break through that. And something we were talking about off camera about identity, and I know something we really want to discuss in another series. Yeah. But you have to break that identity that's been formed by you and for you, and those belief systems are the first that have to go. They have to be looked at for what they are. It's just a belief. It's not a truth. It's really not.
No,
a truth.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No. I'm just agreeing with you. I think what you're saying is so profound.
I think it's fundamental with anybody that's being challenged with any new things or wants to be something other than or move forward with the sort of person they want to be. You have got to carry those. You've got to possibly change your beliefs or look at them and see how they're creating roadblocks in your life. We were talking about some failure earlier on, and this sort of massive paralyzing fear of failure that people have, and that's often, it's the fear of actually embarrassing yourself in front of others. It's showing yourself up. It's falling over in front of lots of people. But also, it's a lot about challenging the beliefs about how you think about yourself. And I think that if you can push through those beliefs and possibly fail, not necessarily, but you will create growth in yourself and stuff as well.
Absolutely,
man. Forward. So totally. I think it's a fascinating subject, and it's something that I wish I'd known 20 years ago.
I did.
We're all talking about this stuff, aren't we? It's, all these things. You're like, oh my God, and it's something I talk to my kids a lot. It's about belief and like, I believe I can't do this. No, I believe I can't do it yet, and. You're so constantly, with my kids, for instance, I'm constantly looking for beliefs, negative beliefs that are forming in their minds and their heads and stuff as well. And like, we've got to shift this. We've got to quickly shift this. Otherwise, it's something you end up being stuck with.
Totally.
And the whole unbaking process to kind of move you forward.
No,
So,
100%. 100%. And you know what, this is, I mean, I have another example. Sorry. When I was at school, I remember I wasn't obviously the greatest academic because I was such a naughty little shit. But I had a teacher, I'll never forget him. And I walked out of his class and he looked at me, he took me by the arm, and he said to me, you know what, you will amount to nothing in life. And I was 15. I never forget that, ever. And it stuck with me for many, many years.
Was it a teacher that said that to you?
It was a teacher, yeah. I'll never forget that. And this is probably why I'm so passionate about my lecturing and my students in my class, to be quite nurturing. And I carried that with me throughout high school. And I mean, I didn't do great. And today, you know, through a process of coaching and realizing who I was and owning my voice through all those kind of troubles that I went through. I mean, I've now got a master's degree, et cetera, et cetera. And I look at that and I think, you know what? I accepted that limitation from this person who knows what shit they were going through. But to pass it on, we've got to be so responsible with the way that we speak, especially to the younger generation, because they do look at us with admiration and they may take on our beliefs and our opinions as truth. And we have to really be responsible with our spoken word, you know, in all situations. And most importantly, guys, as we said in the last one, you know, the voice that lasts you the most is your own. So be responsible with what you say to yourself. And like, you know, like in a parting word from me, I would just like to say to everybody, you know what, it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. Every day is a new opportunity to set beliefs and to look at how you are in this world and how you show up in this world. Don't ever measure yourself according to anybody else's ruler. Your ruler is your own ruler. So whatever's happened in the past, put it to the side. If you want to even envision a ruler with that self-limiting belief, take it, break the ruler. If you have a ruler, break the ruler. Do a physical exercise. Get a new ruler and stick it down wherever you are. Like put it on your wall if you need to. When you wake up in the morning and think, my own belief structure, I get to determine who I am, what I think, and how I am in this world. You know, this is my journey. Al, anything you'd like to maybe say?
I think you said so much. I think you said so much, Rich. I think also just talk to that point you just mentioned. I think your body is always listening. Your mind and body are always listening. So just, you know, first of all, examine the beliefs and see them. Are they actually true?
Sure.
And you know, if you need to, push back, but just talk to yourself kindly and tell yourself that you can do these things, because your body and mind is always listening and taking this. It's just sweeping this information all the time. So yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, Rich. I really do. And limiting self-beliefs are, for me, I think probably one of the biggest roadblocks to people moving forward. And that is where you have to really challenge if you want to move forward and break habits, create a different life for yourself, create the relationship you want, the career you want, the money mindset you want. You have to break those self-limiting beliefs and understand that they are truths you formed. They're not the truth.
Absolutely. And I think the word that you used there, I'll challenge them. Beautiful, beautiful way to look at how do we tackle this. Challenge them, challenge yourself. And remember, like we said, growth is not something that you can just like get like that. It's not something you can buy. It's not something somebody can give you. It often takes work. And sometimes that work is not too great. Sometimes it's painful.
Painful, Rich.
Yeah, absolutely painful. But the payoff is magnificent.
Agreed.
So guys, just as a word of encouragement, thank you again for listening to us. Don't ever forget how important you are as a person and your unlimited potential to succeed in absolutely every area in life. If you would like to get hold of El and I, or read up more about us, the links will be at the end of this video. We do film these series on a weekly basis. Last week, we had an awesome one on the stories we tell ourselves, and the week before on assessment. So guys, please subscribe to our channel and let's form a bit of a community around this. You want to drop us a line, Stick it at the end of the YouTube comments box. We'd love to tackle any subjects that you feel that we would benefit everybody else listening to. Any parting words?
No, Rich, great conversation. Thanks for sharing so much, actually. It was really interesting. Yeah, good conversation.
Awesome. All right, cool, guys. Well, I'll see you next week. Guys, thank you very much. See you again.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Rich.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.